Met my childhood love when I visited my hometown and did not expect him to look even better. Damn, one would have thought that after all of these years, the two of you would have let the bad blood dry, my sister Amanda said as she sipped some wine. I took the glass from her and she protested. Hey, get your own, or better yet, get whiskey so that you can drown the feelings you still have for Malakai, she added with a small smirk. I downed her wine and poured some more for me. I did not expect him to be there. Was he not the one who said I was holding him back and that he wanted to see the world? I am shocked that he even came to the funeral. I knew I shouldn't have come here. I threw my hands in the air, as if annoyed, acting as if it wasn't my decision to attend the funeral. My old school principal had passed away. I knew I had to pay my last respects. That man had been very supportive and pushed me to become the best version of myself. When I was being bullied and had no friends, he allowed me to sit in his study. He gave me books to read, igniting my love for reading. Mom and Dad were never home on the weekend, so he allowed me to spend afternoons at his house reading and working on assignments. That's how I met his nephew, Malakai, my first real love. I had one online relationship with a girl before I met him, but I had never really felt love. And then, he captured my heart and showed me a whole new world that I had never seen before. After showing me what could be, he crushed my heart. It took me a good 2 years to get over him. I still saw him or heard him because I kept in contact with his uncle. I heard about all the amazing things he was doing with his life, and I sat there with unresolved heartbreak. He was the one that got away, and I could never accept it. The last I heard about him, he was on another continent, performing in a worldwide show. No one had seen or heard from him in years. He did not come back when his uncle was sick, but I did. My job allows me flexibility, so I was able to come back to town occasionally. Mr. Smith was more of a father than I ever had, and it was only right for me to pay my respects. Imagine my shock when a man came to me at the funeral and told me he was glad I made it. When I looked at him, I knew who he was, but he did not recognize me. Your uncle was a good man who touched many lives, I told him. He did. I wish I had more time with him, Malakai mused. You could have seen him so many times. He told me about all the times you told him you were visiting, but something always came up. I get your career is important, but putting someone's hopes up is not great, I chided, although it was indeed out of the blue. I do not know who you think you are. Just because you are in tune with the town gossip does not mean that you know everything about me. I am not going to accept this from you, he replied sternly. You're right. I was out of line. You are not the selfless Kai that I used to love. I smiled. When I said that, his eyes widened in disbelief. Aiden? I hardly recognized you. It's been years. He let out a small chuckle. Well, I had a huge growth spurt after you left, and I got into a different style. I'm not surprised that you didn't recognize me. Wow, I have been wondering where you've been. I thought you might have been too upset with me to come, Malakai admitted sheepishly. We are both 30 years old now. What happened was ages ago. I am not here for you. I am here for the man who was there for me from the start, I replied, and then turned on my heel. I then went to the other room where I found my sister and was now complaining to her about Malakai. Our breakup had been disastrous, and I never got any consolation from that. Malakai not recognizing me just made things a whole lot worse, and made me feel like I did not matter. Why would poor old me matter when he had been dating so many people over the years? Try as I might, I always got news about him. Since I was close to his family, I always found out these things. He was never with the same person for long. I wondered if it was the same for him as for me. I had not been able to form a proper relationship in years. I did find love after him, but that man finished off what was left of my heart. Now, I avoided matters of the heart. You have to talk to him about what happened. You still love him, Amanda said. I glared at her. Just as one loves how a poisonous flower looks. I rolled my eyes and downed my drink. I checked my messages and saw that my latest distraction, a handsome enough man, was close to our town. I had informed him that I would see him not long after the funeral. For the rest of the evening, I avoided Malakai. The feeling I got when I saw him told me that nothing had changed about how I felt for him. A few days later, I was catching up on some emails and planning to leave town at the end of the week when I got a call from the desk downstairs. I knew it was not my sister because she left days before. I was told that there was a man who wanted to see me by the name of Malakai. When I heard his name, I rolled my eyes, but told them to let him in. I was about to leave either way. Might as well hear what he had to say because I was never coming back to town. I noticed that despite trying to feel otherwise, my heart started to beat faster as I waited for him to come up. I found myself cleaning up around me, not wanting to look like a mess. After what seemed like an eternity, there was a knock on the door. Hey, I said, sounding devoid of any emotions. Hi, Aiden. I promise I'm not stalking you. Your sister said I could find you here, he replied, a bashful smile on his mouth. What do you want? We are over and I have nothing more to say to you, I proclaimed, stepping aside to let him in. Can you please sit down? This is something important. I sat down and looked at him, waiting for him to tell me what was so important. My uncle's will reading was yesterday. He left the both of us a sum of money. Well, me, but you are mentioned as well. Remember how we always talked about the youth center we wanted to build? He asked. We were younger and dumber then, however. The idea started with a small hope to create space for individuals like us who didn't have a safe home to dream. And we ran amok with it. It started when we were still 15. Now, he stood before me. He had changed, yet remained the same. Carry on. I crossed my arms over my chest. Malakai then went on to tell me that his uncle left us enough money to do that. His clause was that the money was to be put into a building fund, which the two of us could access. It was his wish for us to build it together. Even when he's gone, he looks out for others. To my horror, I could hear the crack in my voice. I looked down to hide my tears. Malakai gave a smile. He always will. I wanted to ask if you would be able to set what happened between us aside and do this. With me, he added. I was silent for a moment. Yes, let's do this. I do not know how your schedule looks, but I can stay here for as long as possible. I probably just need to find an apartment. For Mr. Smith, I would do anything. I owed everything to him. You probably wouldn't consider this, but we have a cottage available at the house. It would make the whole process easier. He was giving a suggestion. A suggestion that I didn't want to take, but I knew I would have to eventually. Okay, one of us does need to be at the house to communicate with Aunt, as I am sure she will be helping, he said. I am going to be at the house as well. I am not going back overseas, he announced with a relaxed smile. The building could take a year or more. Are you sure you want to put your career on hiatus? Honestly, I need a break. The city and all its lights have affected my health. He paused for a moment, and his face turned dark for a moment, but then he smiled at me. Let me know when you want to move in. I must say that I am shocked you want to help out. I thought you would have such an awesome life waiting for you in the city. I can work from anywhere, I said. Well, that comes with the perks of being one of the big shots of Hollywood, I guess. He gave me a small wink. I knew you would do well for yourself. I'm behind the scenes and hardly important. I felt a light blush creep up at his compliments. He knew I could not take compliments and would only get redder the more he complimented me. I remember one time I was feeling terrible about the color I dyed my hair, and he spent 10 minutes telling me my hair was beautiful and comparing it to so many things. By the end of it, I was a giggling mess. Red is the first rose of the season, he suddenly said. What? I laughed nervously. Your blush. I remember how cute you become when someone pays you a compliment. I remember the day you hid in a pillow for 10 minutes straight after I complimented your blonde hair and would not stop. I was just thinking about that moment. The good old days, so innocent, I mused, smiling widely. They really were, and then one day... He stopped himself and shook his head. He waved at me silently, and then he was out of the door. I sat down as more memories of us flooded my head. I had done such a good job of burying them, but they were still so vivid I could almost touch them. 2 weeks later, I accepted the invitation to move into the cottage. It had a separate entrance, so I knew I would not have to see Malakai a lot. Besides, his aunt was there. My sister was beyond shocked when she found out that I moved there. To be honest, it made financial sense and was one of the only available places in town. First few days were fine. I kept to myself, did some work, and took some walks. I then scheduled a meeting with Kai so that we could find the perfect plot. On the day of the meeting, he was professional, which I appreciated. We decided to have coffee at the end of the day so that we could discuss what we had seen. Well, I like the plot that is closer to the school, but the one that is closer to the church is fine. The only problem is that it is a bit bigger but pricier, I said as soon as we sat down. Closer to the school looks fine. The size is good as well, but it might need a lot more work. It looks a bit uneven. Do not forget the part of it that has become a dumping site. We might need to have it evaluated and then make an offer if the owner is selling. At least the owner of the third plot put it up for sale. I just don't like that it is so far from normal houses and in the middle of the business district, he shared. We spoke for a bit more, and then came the waitress. Welcome to the Rosé Cafe, gentlemen. What can I get you? I will have an iced tea. You will have a mocha latte. Extra strong, Malakai answered without looking up. And to eat? We will both have carrot cake. A brownie for him and a plain muffin for me, I responded as I looked through the details of the plots. Wow, how long have you two been together? You seem to know what the other wants without discussion. I wish all my customers were this direct, she gushed with a smile. I frowned as I realized what had just happened. I laughed and said, "We are just friends." She gave us a look of disbelief but left. Crazy, right? Malakai laughed with a mischievous glint. I could not help but think back to the incident that happened on my 18th birthday. The server got a friend's, Peter, and mine order wrong. It was a busy night, and the poor guy looked like he was about to cry when it happened. My friend decided to make things worse by making a big deal out of it. I, on the other hand, did not say anything, but I knew I could not stomach anything with an egg in it. It was then that Malakai had come to my rescue. He took my plate and gave me his dish. He loved steak so much that everyone knew that he never shared it, but he shared it with me. When I tried to protest, he stopped me and said, "Hey, I've got you. Also, Peter, I am sure you could put the tomatoes on the side. The poor server has had a long day." Now that was a man after my own heart, one who was selfless and always knew what I was thinking. I smiled as I looked through the information. "The school is perfect," we both said at the same time. We caught each other's eyes and laughed. A month later. Construction had started after some prep work. There were no toxins found on the land, and the seller was more than happy with the price we settled. We started to work on different aspects together. Even though we sometimes made the same choices, we had different styles. Because of that, we were always bickering. On one such morning, it was no different. "Are you colorblind? We cannot have these two shades together," Malakai tried to point out. "It is called contrast, duh. It will give an avant-garde edge. You should know something about that, Mr. International," I shot back. I heard someone scoff, probably one of the workers. They were so used to our bickering by now. "You know what? I'm not compromising on the floor. The one I choose will be perfect, Mr. Director," he shot back and gave me a small smirk. We were facing each other as we talked, pointing and gesturing. This meant he was walking backward. What we did not see was that there was a bit of a dip behind us. The next thing I knew, his feet were in the air and he was falling. I heard a crunch and then nothing. My heart stopped. "Kai!" I screamed as I rushed to him. People rushed to where he was and helped me to bring him up. He was awake but looked a bit dazed. Unfortunately, his hand was at an awkward angle now. I did not think twice. I lifted him up in my arms and ran to the car, which was several feet away from the site. I stepped on the gas and raced to the hospital. He was groaning in pain but not screaming at all. I was sure that he was still shocked by what had happened. 2 weeks later. "Hey, could you come to the house? I need help with something. Sorry for bothering you." Malakai sent a message to me. I left my phone where it was and ran to him. "What do you need?" I asked as soon as I saw him. "Please do not laugh, but I need help opening a package." "Aunt is not here," he explained. I saw the package he was referring to and immediately got to work. Over the past 2 weeks, I've been going on site while he was getting bed rest. His arm was fine, but in a cast. He had a small concussion, but he was fine. I was so worried about him on the day of the accident that I slept at the hospital until I knew he was okay. I felt like it was all my fault, even though he kept on insisting that it was not. When I opened the package, I was shocked. "You still watch this show?" I laughed. "Yes, I have so much to catch up on, but now I have free time. I can do it," he explained. I rolled my eyes when he said that and he exclaimed with a small laugh, "What?" I chuckled at the obvious. "You were so bad at keeping up with the plot. How did you survive watching without me?" I asked. "I will give you a poster if you watch a few episodes with me later on," he smiled devilishly. "Throw in a poster and some pens," I smiled. "You have always been so good at negotiating." "Fine," he faked being offended. "I'm not busy right now. We can watch it." I knew I was lying. I did have to go to the site and check something out, but I figured I would do it later. The truth was, I missed the show and watching it with him, even though he was always lost. A few episodes soon turned into a whole season. 2 months later. Malakai healed up soon and was back at work. He was much more careful now. We got a lot of work done. We were on much friendlier terms now, and the issues of the past were at the back of our mind. Slowly, our youth center started to come together. It was so beautiful to see Mr. Smith's dream come true. We stuck to a schedule. We were at the site in the morning and then late afternoon. Sometimes I would be working on other projects while at the site. He would take over then. We were so in sync that I trusted him to make choices without me, except for some stylistic choices. We usually drove home together. It started when he had his cast and insisted on going to the site. Now we find it is more economical to use one car. After work, we were usually too tired to do much else. Aunt started cooking for both of us. We then watched our favorite series together while eating. One night, I fell asleep while there. He did not wake me up. Instead, he got me a blanket and let me sleep. When I woke up, I realized I had missed work. I blew up his phone, asking him what he was playing at. "This is not funny. We have a huge delivery today. I was supposed to be there to receive it," I sent an angry text. "Jake will do that. I am not at work either." I decided that we had been working too hard and needed a day away from sight. "Besides, have you forgotten what day it is?" he sent back. I thought very hard for a moment. Then the thought rushed in, and I could not believe he remembered it. "I did, and I want to make it up to you for the days that we did not get to celebrate," he added in the text. "Please come to your room," he added again. I ran to the room immediately. A long time ago, his uncle would have a day where he donated stationery and other things to children who had nothing in the lower grades. When I found out, I started to join him, and so did Malakai. It became our color day. It was the day when we made things much more colorful for everyone else. "Wow, you remembered all of this from a time when we were all innocent, where the world could be good for at least a day," I sighed. "I miss those days so much," he said to me. I sat down and started to help him wrap things up. "I miss them too. But you never seemed to. When you left after we broke up, you did not even try to contact me." I told him what was on my mind. "You were better off without me. I was dealing with so much and just needed to get out of this place. I knew you loved me, and I loved you too. But when my mom's health got worse, all I could think about was how love was temporary, and one day I would lose you." He sighed. I felt tears sting my eyes. "So you decided to fulfill that prophecy on your own? Why did you not give me a choice? I loved you so much. We could have worked through the pain." I am sorry. You deserve so much more," he sighed. "It seemed like it was easy for you to replace me. Could those people handle the pain better than me?" I asked. Not the pain of me being away from you. To be honest, I locked everything up, all the beautiful memories in a little box where no one could get to them." His tone had a hint of sadness in it. "I did as well. They have been coming back. But I'm scared. We will build this place and probably go our separate ways after that. I'm sure you have some handsome guy waiting for you out there," I said bravely. "No one has made me feel such yearning after you. Never in the same way, just so you know." Those words took me by surprise. I was silent for a while as we worked. I did not say anything to him at all. After that, we loaded the stationery items into the car and went to donate them. 3 months later. "Are you ready?" Amanda said. I was nervous and kept on getting worried that I would mess up my speech. "Yes, I cannot believe the day has finally come," I sighed. I felt a hand on my shoulder and turned to see Malakai. We had managed to build the center in record time, and it was all thanks to him. Some people found out about what we were doing and decided to help us with labor, as well as resources, in order for the center to get built faster. We even got volunteers who were willing to work there once it had been built. We were in and out of meetings because everything was happening so quickly. Because of that, we spent a lot of time together. The more time I spent with him, the more I thought of our past, and how we had always been a team. I had missed that so much. I had not met anyone who complimented me like that until him. Now we were having the opening ceremony for the foundation. "You've got this." He squeezed my shoulder. His warm eyes reassured me that everything was okay, and that he had me, like he always had me in the past. I could not help but feel an aching within me to show him just how much it meant that he was here for me. But my sister was here, and I was not sure he still felt the same way. I took a step closer to the podium and faced the crowd. Later that evening. "You have been running around all day. You must rest," I said to Malakai. He was busy speaking to a server about something. "No, I must make sure that everything goes well," he protested. "Your hands are shaking. You've not been eating. Come." I did not take no for an answer. I dragged him and took him to one of the offices. There I had laid out some of his favorite food and some things to drink. "You are not leaving this room without eating," I said in a no-nonsense voice. He rolled his eyes at me, but he sat down and dug in. I could not help but watch him as he ate. "We did it. We made our biggest wish come true," I mused. "I'm so proud of us. You know, I've not felt this accomplished in ages," he confessed. "Now why would that be? You're doing well for yourself," I replied. "No, I've felt so passionless in recent years. Working on this project has made me feel very alive. It is crazy, but I do not want to go back overseas, he confessed as he took a sip of juice. Honestly, same. Since we are ahead of schedule, I can still be here. I think I should stay here just for a while, make sure things run well, I explained. I reached for a cookie that was on his plate at the same time as he did. Our hands bumped and we laughed. Oh, you cannot trust me to run this on my own? He laughed. Do you want to be alone? I asked. His face changed and he looked down. What if there is no choice but to be alone? What if I have ruined all the chances to not be alone? He smiled grimly as he looked down. I do not think you have. You could have anyone. I smiled. Except the one I want, he confessed abruptly. I was taken aback. You are clearly an exceptional businessman. Anyone would be happy to work with you, I complimented him, trying to keep the topic light. I do not mean business. I mean I have messed up all my chances with you, he declared out of the blue. I swore my heart stopped as I realized I was not the only one who had been this way. Why would you think that? Have I made you feel like that in any way? I asked innocently as I leaned in closer to him. I could have gotten lost in those pools of ice any day. You would never want to take me back. I messed up. You messed up when we were kids, but now we're grown-ups. Is it weird to tell you that I love you even more now? I asked, sounding vulnerable. Suddenly he stood up and came to stand beside me. He lifted my chin up so that I was looking at him. Do you really mean that? Gosh, I've been wanting you to say that for so long, but I did not want to go back to square one. We've been working so well with each other for a while now. The words tumbled out of his mouth so fast. Shut up and kiss me, I smiled. And so, he did. He leaned down and kissed me for the first time in 12 years. This kiss was different. I could feel the way he missed me, the way that he had grown and changed, that he was the same yet so different. I had also grown and changed, yet my heart still beat in tune to his. It was funny how the universe worked. I intertwined my hand in his as we kissed. I felt our connection strengthen and the static that had been within us. When we finally pulled away, I had tears in my eyes. I missed you so much, I exclaimed as I brought him in for a hug. For a moment it was just us in this world, reunited after so many years. I am not leaving you again. I'm not making such a stupid choice again. He held my hand tightly. Neither am I. We are going to work no matter what this time. I love you, Malakai, I whispered. I love you too, so much, he whispered back. Conclusion. We decided to take things slow in resuming our relationship. We put as much work into it as possible. We also ran the youth center together. His uncle would have been proud because of how much it helped young people. We decided to stay in town and run the center together because we were so passionate about it and also about building a life together. The end. Do you think your first love and you would be compatible if you were to meet again? Thanks for reading. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome.